Yes, hello and welcome to the Knock On KCLR and Scoreline.ie's weekly rugby podcast. Just myself and Tom this week. The other lads, one lad is away in France. He's going to be over there for the France Ireland rugby match, and the other lad is working. But Tom joins me this week. How are you, Tom?
Hi, Stephen. How are you?
Not too bad, Tom. Before we move on, condolences to you and your family in the death of your father last week. From all of us in KCLR and Scoreline.
Thanks very much, Stephen. Thank you.
Others, Tom, we're up the walls with rugby. It's a great way to be as well. We've so much to talk about tonight. We'll try and get through as much as we can. We're going to talk Leinster League last week and what's coming up this weekend in a couple of moments. We're going to talk about Ireland's win over Wales and the Ireland team to play France. We'll pick through that as well. A couple of big stories in that as well. Johnny Sexton, of course, the big one. He's out, hamstring injury in training. So Joey Carberry's in there as well. And of course, Leinster are playing tomorrow night, Friday night, against Edinburgh as well. Which we'll try and get through as much of that as possible. But we'll start with the local stuff, Tom. And we'll start with your own team last week. A big loss away last week. Tough going.
Yeah. I wasn't actually up at the match, but I got the match reports, and that's from everybody that was talking to. I suppose the biggest thing is that we were missing 20 players. We had a little misunderstanding with our planner for our rugby league year planner. A wrong colour was put down by accident on a date. Oops. And a stag was booked.
All right.
And we were missing. It was one of the lads off the first team stag. So we were missing 20 of the lads between first and seconds. I think it was 2/3 of the first team, and the rest would have been straight off the starting from the seconds. So I suppose, look, if we had been in contention for a promotion for this game, something would have happened with the stag, but you couldn't. Everyone after paying money, and in fairness, what we did was because we had to go. The biggest issue with the game was that our seconds needed a point to win the league. So,
oh no,
yeah. So we actually even had a few guys putting out sick and injured as well. So it kind of was a bit of chaos. But what I have to say is, look, the 30 or so lads that went up to Byrne did the club extremely proud, especially those who played first against Byrne are such a very strong side, and they were, for a team to try and come together with so many people from so many lads from everywhere, and I think they performed really well. It just couldn't score, to be honest. And when you're up against a side that really wants to win the league and are really going for promotion, and it's very hard to motivate yourselves. I presume the lads, to go up to Byrne and with a team that's just kind of put together. And I think it was the fact that we were trying to just stay within the game. But I mean, when you have a team that really is looking to go to win the league, it's a very, very tough task. So look, we're not going to say a whole lot about it, because I don't think we can go into an in-depth discussion about how they played and the ins and outs and stats or whatever. It's more or less this week. I will just say, look, lads, the lads that came, I have to say, hats off to you for coming together and for going up there and trying to do the business for the club and for those who had left. But I think I think it was, from what I said, is that they did play well. It's just they were just up against a far superior side on the day.
Absolutely.
But our seconds, the seconds went up, and they were lead. They scored a couple of tries early in the first half. Were leading. Byrne came back, and that's the day their 20s were playing earlier, and even brought on a couple of their 20s near the end, but they held out. We got a try, kind of crossfield kick to the corner, and one of the young wingers from their under 18s, Evan Gary, who just one of the lads who volunteered. I think it was 3 or 4 under 18s. Have to say a big thanks to those. Who came up and stepped in. It's a big step to come from under 18s to come and play seniors. But Evan got a try in the corner to seal the game. So the great thing is the seconds have won the seconds league, And the
Fantastic.
fact is, which is a nice thing to know, is that we didn't go up there and win it by a losing bonus point or a draw. They went up there and they won it with the win. So it's a huge feat for them. So I have to say, huge thanks to everybody who worked so hard, from management to players to coaches, to get that league under their belt, and to the players themselves. As you know, Stephen, we talk week in, week out about that. We've had 50 up to, we have a panel of nearly 50 lads that's been 40 something at training, and it's about the whole. It's not about just your first team. It's about the whole panel. Everybody that's training on the one night. It's about everybody that goes training, and I have to say that they're a magnificent bunch, a bunch of players. They've come from majority of them are all homegrown. We have a couple of young lads from the college, and just a few lads that have kind of popped in, have come to work in Carlow. So it's just great to see. First of all, so many homegrown players to be involved, and second of all, it's just that we have such a great atmosphere in the club at the moment. So, as hats off and congratulations to them all.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations, Tom. They've been fascinating, or they've been fabulous all seasons that I have. We talk about them every week, and unbeaten and everything. No, it's a great way to top it off and get the league under the belt already, as they say, and job done. And obviously commiserations for the loss last weekend, but you could only do what you could do, as the lad says. Kilkenny went up to Donnybrook to play Bective, so it was Bective 1 week after another. They ran them close a couple of weeks ago, Tom, but last week I think they knew what was going up, that Bective wasn't their main fight, because they've a couple of games to go still with Ashbourne, and Ashbourne are third from bottom, Kilkenny are second from bottom in Division 1A. So the next couple of matches for Kilkenny are absolutely crucial, as James Blanchfield has been telling us. So this weekend against Ashbourne, and the next couple will be the ones that they've targeted, because Bective are at the opposite end of the table, obviously, and they've bigger things on their mind.
Well, that's a massive thing for Kilkenny, and I know, look, James, have the right to be concerned. Any team that's in the bottom two, fighting to stay up, it's a huge thing to be in that position. So we'd hope that Kilkenny will beat Ashbourne, because they do deserve to be there. I mean, we know they're such an honourable club, and they have a fantastic group of players down there, and their coaches, but it's just they've been really unfortunate. I think, well, going from what James has kind of held between injuries and COVID and I think it's just they haven't really just got the whole team together. Every week there's been something that's upset them. So hopefully this week now, maybe they'll fight us and
fingers crossed.
Keep us southeast teams there where they belong.
Yeah, well, if they do go down, there's one benefit to it. Yourselves and Tullow and Kilkenny will be all together again. But the Kilkenny will be the furthest thing that Kilkenny want to hear now on this podcast. Tullow had a good win at the weekend as well, and the women as well. The women's team went up and had a very good win. They hammered the Portdara Falcons as well. So the rest of their games in the women's Division 1 league are all at home. So Tullow women doing well, and the men, Johnny Tobin, will be happy as well. It was a good convincing win that they had as well.
It was a very good win against Longford, because Longford are a noisy team. I know we put a good win on them, but especially considering they're fighting to avoid relegation as well. So, I mean, great win for Tullow, I have to say. Hands up.
Absolutely. Come here. Have you put on extra capacity in Oak Park now for Sunday? The big derby, the big clash of the year. Never mind anything else. Carlow and Tullow in Oak Park is where it's at this weekend. Looking forward to it, Tom. Be a bit of crack, if anything.
Yeah. do we need to say any more? We'll just hang up and go, because I think Carlow and Tullow, Jesus,
bring the best out of each other.
It's what sports about, especially local derbies, and we know, like, I suppose throughout the years, we've kind of the kind of not hate between the two teams, the competition between the two teams as kind of it's still the same, but this time I think there's a lot more close friendship. So there's an awful lot of hammering each other goes on the pitch, but I mean, there'll be also a lot of hammering pints will happen in the bar afterwards. Yeah, it's going to be. Look, I think you've got you have two teams. Kind of. We of course are trying to have a good end to our season and prepare for Town's Cup. Like forget about Tullow being Tullow and the local derby. The key factor to this game is that we blow the cobwebs off, from that's been away, get back on track. We have to play our best on Sunday because first of all, Tullow, we all know that Tullow are just going to dig in so deep. They're a good team from 1 to 15, are a solid bunch of players, and they're also one of the hardest teams because they just always have that bite and that horrible edge to them. So, sorry lads, but you do right to the very end. It's not good for any team playing you, which is a compliment to you that you've always fought. You fight right to the final whistle, and that's so hard for any team to play against. And that's what we know we're up against on Sunday. Results during the year for either sides doesn't matter when it comes to this match. It's basically who can last the 80. First of all, who can last the 80 minutes, and second of all, who can just get that edge, that little bit of an edge, because that's all it is. It could be a penalty, it could be a try, and it's just something that really that local derby just has such a bite to it. I said our advantage. Okay, this time we have the advantage being at home, but Tullow know Oak Park as well as anyone, so I think you're going to have a banging match no matter what. Anybody, and I look, no matter what the outcome is, I think anybody who wants to see a really gritty, hard fought, old style, just go for it. Two teams going at each other. I'd tell them to come up to Oak Park on Sunday. I don't care where you're from, if you're neutral or not, and you want to see a tough game of rugby. There's definitely, I think there's one on the cards. I mean, to both sides, we have to say hats off. I know Tullow still fighting away there, but I think it's just going to be a cracking game. I'm not sure the injuries. I have to be honest. I haven't been around the club this week, so I'm hoping that we're fairly. I know we have one or two slight doubts, all right, but hopefully we'll have a full contingent to play. And sure, look, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, look, I know at the end of the day, this time, it's nice. COVID is hopefully in the back of our minds, and we can all go into the bar and share a few drinks and a few old stories afterwards. And this is really this game. I think, Stephen, this game and games like it is really what sport is all about, and what rugby. Well, for me, what rugby is about. Two teams hopping off each other, and as I say, if there's any neutrals out there, I have nothing to do on Sunday and want to come and watch a great game, come along and come up to the club and support.
Absolutely, plenty of parking and a good big bar and everything in there.
Yeah,
you'll be well entertained. The covered
plenty
stand as
ordered.
well. Yeah, absolutely. Covered stand as well if there's room left on it, and plenty of room around the pitch. You'll be well able to watch the match if you haven't been up at Oak Park. Drop up. It's going to be, as we say, an epic derby. It always is. It never lets us down. We're going to move on to Ireland. We'll start with the win over Wales, I suppose, Tom. Of course, it wasn't at the intensity level of the All Blacks win, but I suppose you can't really expect that. It's a different team, but convincing win over Wales. Wales were awful.
Yeah. I think really Wales just kind of Wales started. They came out their usual. I think they came out of their usual out of the blocks, and they just they were very defensive, and I don't know. There was just something missing. I think we won the clash of the breakdown, which is the key point to any game. If you win the collisions and win the breakdown, you're well over halfway there. Wales didn't really look like they had anything. They never really looked like scoring. I mean, the scores in the last few minutes of any game, when one team is so far ahead, doesn't really come into it. But I just thought everyone. The front row was just superb.
Isn't it an
They,
epic front row? Isn't it one
oh,
of the best you've ever seen? Like,
lads, there was I got to see, I didn't get to see it really on the day. I got back to look at it again and just go through. And I just remember, I can't remember who one of the Welsh players got the ball, and they were double team tackled, hit by first of all by Porter and second of all by Furlong. And I just went, holy mother of God! I said, like how would you get back up? Do you know, it was
the
just
two
there.
lads hopping
Like the
out.
two boys, Porter is running around like an absolute jungler. I mean, he is just come on, leaps and bounds since going back over to Loosehead,
It's mad,
and
isn't it?
yeah,
Big risk and a big experiment, but by God, it's worked.
like the Byrne and James Ryan in the second row. James Ryan was did so much dirty work. When you actually look at the game, it's not about what he does with the ball in hand. It's what he does off the ball, and at ruck time, and just continually the tackles, and
People don't see that, Tom. For the
yeah,
people that are only getting into rugby, they don't see the bit of donkey work that goes on behind the scenes. Josh Van der Fleer would be very like that as well. Tyke Byrne
a-
gets through a lot of that work.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Kean Dobbin, he wreaked havoc on Wales.
Hmm.
You know, um, just every time he touched the ball, there was just something going to happen. Jack Coleman was just
Brilliant.
again hard hitting. Like himself and Ty Byrne are actually very similar.
Hmm.
When you have players like that,
Very abrasive.
absolutely, and
Yeah.
Like Ronan Kelleher all over the park. Um, Gibson Park, I don't think it was one of his best games, but he
Gibson
ran
Park.
things. Yeah,
Yeah, his speed was. Yeah, he wasn't as quick as he usually is. What was it tactical? Because Ireland did play a bit of a
yeah,
slower game. But like looking at the stats, what were they saying that Ireland managed to get quick ruck ball in 3 seconds for vast parts of the game, which on paper is quick. But
yeah.
yeah, it appeared slower on the day, and people were giving out about that.
And I
But
think
yeah,
that it was the quality of some of his
yeah,
passes weren't as
yeah, it
accurate as
wasn't
and
good.
as,
Yeah,
as good as
yeah,
he was. But like,
he's allowed
if
that
that's
though.
if that's his bad game, if
Yeah.
that's his bad game, you still there's so much hope like going forward that things are going to improve. Johnny was himself. Johnny just has
Yeah.
so solid, and was central to all those attacking moves that we had, and he does really bring that ball to the line. Uh,
Yeah, absolutely. And I noticed whether it was a tactical thing as well. Ireland got a penalty not far from the front of the posts. And usually there was talk of Ronan Kelleher tapping and going from the 5 metre line. That didn't happen. Johnny picked up the ball. Then he was looking at the sideline, and the lads had another chat. And then he went. Then he, you could read his lips saying "F sake," and he walked back then and called for the tee. And I was there going to myself. I was wondering why they weren't going to the corner more because Ireland, Leinster, they always go to the corner, even if it's only a
yeah,
couple of minutes into the match. They have that ruthlessness about them. But you're sort of thinking to yourself, was that tactical? Were they holding back a bit against for the France match? Like Joe Schmidt admitted that, like obviously they do that. Teams do that. They're not going to give away everything, but they'll play a strategy that's good enough to get them the win. I don't know. Maybe I read into it too much, but
no, I'd
um,
say, Stephen, you're probably right, and especially, I mean, at
you know,
local level, that you're not. It is starting to come a little bit more into play that if you are beating a team, you're afraid because videos do go around and coaches
mhm,
do pass videos around the games. But I mean, if you're going to give an analysis, if France are going to analyze that game, like a fine tooth comb to find every weakness that Ireland has,
yeah,
um,
especially
and
set piece stuff.
and our set piece is so good. You can just see Paul O'Connell's handiwork everywhere.
Yeah.
The forwards are so efficient. Their lineouts are good. Their scrums are good. Their play around the park is good. You can really, really see O'Connell coming so much into it. And the one thing which was great, the lack of penalties.
Oh, we 58 minutes, I think, without
Yeah,
conceding a penalty or something like that. That's incredible.
that is incredible
Incredible.
because
Yeah.
that's one of our fault. And then if you look at the opposite in Wales, gave away an awful lot of penalties.
Stupid yellow card against Johnny as well. That body hit on him. He was no more going for the ball now than.
Gary Ringrose to me was just had a cracking game.
Yeah.
Really cracking. I had to be. I know Matt Hansen got the man of the match, but to me it was really close between him and Ringrose.
Or Van der Fleer and a couple of them did really well on the day. But Mac Hansen really impressed me now. I didn't know what to expect. I definitely thought he was worthy of that shot to put him in. I said, what harm? He'll be as good as anyone on that wing, but he really impressed me now. Like a lad that's been there for a while. I said, you know what, fair play. And it's good to see him back out then, obviously, again this week. Job done against Wales. So we move on to France now. We're going to throw up the team on the screen there. Tom, it's as you expect, Andrew Ronan and Tyke Furlong in the front row, Tyke Byrne and James Ryan continue. So it's all the forwards are the same. Gibson Park, Joey Carberry is in for Johnny Sexton. For people only listening to the podcast now and that haven't heard, Johnny Sexton hurt his hamstring in training. Mac Hansen is at 11. You've won the Aki and Gary Ringrose pretty in the centre again. Andrew Conway, Hugo Keenan. Now the differences on the bench this week is Ian Henderson comes in and onto the bench, and Robbie Henshaw, and Jack Carty comes in onto the bench as well as Johnny Sexton is out. So that was expected. I think Robbie Henshaw and Ian Henderson coming back. Obviously, loads of experience there, lines as well. So you can't argue with that as well. And of course Dan Sheehan did well when he came on last week against Wales as well. The team is as you'd expect, Tom, isn't it? There's nothing. It's what we expect.
I think just looking at it there against, I think James Hume was kind of unlucky not to, but like Robbie has to come back. Robbie has to come back into it there. Jack Carty was always going to have to step in. I'm not too worried. I mean, Jack Carty has been playing really, really well. I think it was unfortunate. Ryan Baird is probably the unfortunate one.
Yeah, and that's just an experience thing.
And I would say so, especially coming into France. And it's also physicality. Ryan Baird is more athletic, I would say, than Ian Henderson. Ian Henderson is just a bit more of a beast.
A bit cuter as well.
Other than that, I mean, it is a team. Joey, I know we're going to have it's kind of a poison chalice for him, really, because if he doesn't perform, he's screwed because everyone's going to say, why wasn't he there? And if he does perform, he'll be a legend of all legends, because...
And then it's expected from there on in.
So I don't know what... I can't say anything about Joey Carr because he was really rusty playing those autumn internationals, but he kicked very well. His kicking game is not his kicking team is not obviously going to be a problem.
But tactically, he doesn't have Johnny Sexton's head, and that's my worry because Ireland are starting to play that attacking game with the variants. The difference, whether it's kick to the corner, kicking over their heads, box kicking from the scrum halves, or just firing the ball around. You know yourself, the loops. Because we're moving the ball out a lot wider now as well, and Joey needs to be up on the line where Johnny is to keep that ball moving around as quick as possible. So I don't know. I'd love. Geez, I hope Joey goes out there and he destroys it, and he in a good way. He goes out.
Well, like he's going to be up against it.
It's a huge stage.
He said he's Roman Intermac again. I mean, just looking at the French team are just. From 1 to 15, and their bench are just so strong. They're so strong. I think it's nearly the same team that played. And there's that many changes that played Italy. Dupont is scrum half, Entermac is second ham. Villar is on the wing. Mofuana is 12. Gail Fico is 13. Pino is on the wing and Gemne is full back. So I mean that's a serious backline.
Absolutely. And if Johnny only injured himself kicking yesterday or whatever it was, like obviously Joey would have been training and learning everything that was needed to be learned as well. But there's a huge amount of pressure. But you know what? we'll see how it goes. He could be the hero today. Ireland might have a couple of things up their sleeves as well. You'd imagine they might. But sure, all we can do is wait and see what the story is. This man needs to have a bit quicker ball this week. Jameson Gibson Park. We're just looking at him on the screen now. If you're watching you can watch this on YouTube as well. Gibson Park will be crucial to our line speed as well this week, but I think we can expect a faster game as well, especially if conditions are good, because it's what we did against the All Blacks that they couldn't live with, and we need to play like that against France, or we're going nowhere.
Yeah, well, you have. I mean, it's. I think with Gibson Park, definitely. I mean, he's the number one, definitely by far number one scrum half. But you also have. I mean, people give out about Murray at times, but he's also a serious defender of. And if you can often need him at the end of games to come in like that and help change the game and steady the ship sometimes, depending on the game. Like his organization of defense and slowing the ball down and his control of the game often comes into play very much in the last few minutes of any, if we need to close out. I mean, you're up against, as
his
I say,
leadership will be huge.
Dupont is a little tank. It's not just his ability. Like, he has a sidestep, he has the brain, he has a pass, but he's also physically very strong. So. Yeah. You might need more at the end, but it's. I think like player against player, like front row. We know our pack is probably a bit lighter, but the way O'Connell has our scrums at the moment, it'll be tough. And I think we can hold our own. If we can hold our own in the set piece, our line-out's always good. And as I said, like James Ryan caused havoc last week. He was really in guys' faces. He jumped, jumping against the Welsh opposition jumper, and he did cause an awful lot of problems. So I'm not too worried about the pack. I think if we can keep, as I say, if we can keep our set piece right, win the breakdown and win those clashes that are the contact clashes, I think we've as good a chance as we ever had. And I know people will look at France or say, France are just this, that, and probably the best French team in a long time, which it probably is, but on paper.
Look at us, though.
But I mean, we are playing well. And if you get in the French heads too, the French are one team that can implode. So I'm sure Farrell has, on the defensive side, and I'm sure he has a lot of tricks up his sleeve, hopefully, that will cause a little bit of frustration to that French side.
Yeah, the only question that remains in my head about the whole thing is leadership. Like, you have that in spades from Johnny, but who's going to be making the calls, the big calls? Who's going to be that person, especially sort of around the half-back area come the weekend? Like you were saying, if Conor Murray is to come on at some stage, you'll get that from Conor because he's been there, done that, and he's the man for that as well. But with Jameson Gibson Park and Joey Carberry, is it just Joey will just have to step up and that's it?
Well, they'll have to step up. But I mean, James Ryan has a big task as captain.
Yeah,
and
huge.
That's
he's only a kid as well.
As Irish captains go, he's big shoes to fill. We've always had phenomenal captains, from Keith Wood to O'Connell, and we've just had those players. But like, these are the games that's going to be a real tester, because at the end of the day, it's he's on the park, and we'll have to make those decisions. Whether it's a kick to the corner or a kick for posts, or it's going to be tap and go, or it's going to be anything that they have. Basically, it's going to come down to James Ryan.
Absolutely.
I think we have enough players. If we have any control of the game, I think towards the end, you have Peter O'Mahony to come on, and probably some people will cringe and straight away think of penalties and yellow cards because on some of the bigger games, but you have to look at him as a leader when he comes on the pitch, and his ability He is a fantastic leader. I mean, for Munster alone, when he's not around and he's not on the pitch, it's a different ball game. So, like, when you have players like that on the bench to come in, looking at the bench, right, we've Dan Sheehan, electric again. Keane Healy, so much experience. Finlay Beelum, look, it's been it's going to be a tough ask for him. But he is improving year on year and season on season. He is improving, but it will be a tough task coming up against the French replacement, front row when he comes on. Ian Henderson, so much experience. Peter Manley, again, as we were talking, so much experience. Conor Murray, serious amount of experience, and then with Jack Carthy, who's playing extremely well for Connacht, and Robbie Henshaw. You can say no more. Lions player, so you have a massive experience to come off the bench.
Yeah, and that's it. Just before we wrap it up, that man Andrew Conway last week played with a very sick stomach as well. He wasn't well at all, he said, coming into the game. He thought it was nerves beforehand, but he was quite sick, but he got through and he did a good job as well, in fairness to him.
He's a great finisher of ball. I mean, that was a cracking try that he got.
Yeah. That's it. And some people would say, well, all he has to do is fall over into the corner. But there's a lot more to that. He had to do a lot of work for a couple of them as well, and use his head as well. And it's not easy under that pressure.
No, it's not. And it's himself and actually Keith Earls are probably two of the best finishers. They can get in those, like you're saying, like they say, it's just a matter of once you get the ball at the wing, you're kind of nearly, if the work is nearly done. But how many times have you seen tackles coming in a metre from the line, knocking you out? It's how to get your body position right, like to get your arm out without dropping that ball. Just to get it in the right position.
And to be aware of defenders coming at you as well.
Yeah.
And everything. And what angle they're coming. Are they going to dive? Where are they going for your feet? They're going to go for, all that stuff.
Yeah. But it's gas like isn't it funny? Because I mean, before I wouldn't have seen an Irish team without having Keith there. I know he's injured, but you wouldn't have a team really without him because of his finishing. But now, I mean, we have two superb wingers there in Conway and Mark Hansen.
That's it.
So
many more chomping at the bit. Tom, we're going to wrap it up there, but just before we go, what do you reckon? Ireland to win by 20?
I think, right, I'm going to go this time. We see, because the heart and the head is so close, because you're looking at the team. I'd say Ireland by 3.
Yeah, I was thinking that, and not copying you, I was thinking that Ireland by 3, a very hairy finish to the game as well, but I think we'll come out on top of it. It's like you said, for the Conor Murray factor, the Peter O'Mahony, when lads get tired and you get the leaders on as well and they know they have a job to do, I think that could be the difference at the end of the game. But fingers crossed, we beat France in France this weekend. Tom Crotty from Carlow Rugby Club, thanks for talking to us on the knock-on tonight. And we'll try and get the other lads back for next week. We're busy, but thanks for joining us this evening. We'll wrap up the show there. Talk to you next week.